Hello, friends. So I've got my good friend Mark Taylor back for this podcast. Mark, you might know better as Scouse from the 5 Miler of Death RAF Regiment video. But when Scouse is not running 5 miles of death, he's doing this. Take a look.
Should they be, I will fight that. Councillor Taylor.
Can you all hear me? Can you hear me at the back? Right, I've tried to make a proposal. I can't because of the way the formality runs. So I'm going to make a suggestion to you, the people of Thetford, and guests who come in tonight. We've only got one county councillor here tonight. What we need to do, I think at the minute, everybody's made themselves very vocal. We need to get the other county councillors that are on Thetford Council. We need to get Breckland involved because Breckland sits at the county level as well. I suggest that you suggest to the town clerk and the chairman here, I suggest that you ask for an emergency meeting in a bigger room where you can all get in at a longer period. We get all the county councillors in here and everybody that's got something to say. We are going through what we call in the military command push rather than recce pull. You need to be telling these councillors what you want and what you don't want. Don't let them tell you. But I suggest you ask for an emergency meeting.
There we go. Mark's part of a new movement sweep in the UK called Council Watch. Let's get into it.
And
boom, gentlemen, how we doing?
Oh, he's gone. I'd already started talking.
Yeah, we're gonna have to. You're gonna have to start again, mate. Bob, sorry, I was just doing my my Swizz introduction bit there and managing all the technology. So if we just start with Mark. Mark, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, that interesting bit of film you just had on, it basically that all started from the Stand in the Park movement. And we decided that when we heard there was a 20-minute neighbourhood being pushed on us by the higher county council, we decided we need to do something about it. Yeah, is that right, Bob?
That's basically it. Yeah, and it was the idea of a young lady that doesn't want to be named. She said, look, you know, this is going to go on in the town. Let's get some leaflets put out and let's see if we can wake the townsfolk up, so to speak. So it was actually someone in the background that really kicked it off.
Yes.
Yeah, we actually delivered 6,000, 10,000 leaflets across the town, Chris. And we were trying to galvanise people into showing up at the local town council meeting to put pressure on the elected councillors. Now, we're lucky if we get 12 people in an evening to question the town council. Well, after us leafleting the town, we ended up with about 250 people. We had that many people, we just couldn't get them into the town chamber. So I managed to phone my friend up who owns the Thomas Paine Hotel in Thetford, which was empty for the evening. And he gave us permission to put the audience into the hotel. So when you see the start of that bit of film footage, everybody's walking up the street, which was filmed by Chris on LSB Film Productions, and he filmed everybody walking up the road. 250 people in the town centre at that time, and I made quite a viewing into the hotel. A lot got said, and the film footage went viral all over the world. And we did manage to get the county council in on the back of that, with another 300 people about a fortnight later, and that went viral as well. And we haven't stopped since then.
Brilliant. Mark, sorry, I just showed our friends at home that footage of everyone walking up the street.
Yeah.
Could you introduce Bob and Chris for us? Because I only had room to really put your name in the overlay here. So if you can introduce the boys and let us know what they do.
Okay, Bob here is a massive member of the Thetford Stand in the Park He runs his own little channel on YouTube and other platforms called Bob Says, where he does a piece to camera.
That's S-A...
S-E-Y-S.
S-E-Y-S. Sorry, Bob, you did just spell that to me.
That's right.
Yes.
I've been called all sorts.
And
Chris here runs his own film production company, LSB Film Productions, which really helps us no end because it enables us to top and tail what's gone on, turn it into short, piffy films and get it out and get the people enlightened into what is actually happening. And that has galvanised people all around the country, from what we can see, to start doing the same thing.
yes, brilliant. I'm just showing Chris's YouTube channel, LSB Film Productions, folks. Chris, that's a really clear video. Is that shot in 4K or something?
No, I believe that was in 1080p, but I'm using a GH5 Lumix, so it's a good camera.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. So I need to just give a shout out to Rachel Matthews, who came on my show. I was made aware of Rachel because she was challenging basically Colchester Council, and it was kind of quite apparent they were bringing in all these kind of green measures, but they didn't really have a clue about any of the issues that you only sort of really know about if you take an interest through the alternative media, such as the problems with mining lithium for these electric cars, the fact that these cars tend to go up in flames quite a lot, the damage caused by the wind turbines, the fact that these things take just as much oil from the planet to produce and then to scrap, and then they sit there not even, rusting away if they can, but I guess a lot of the parts are plastic which never rust away, and all these kind of all these kind of problems. And then of course we got to be careful what we say here, fellas, but if I just say the last 3 years of medical narrative, I've seen what it was like in the schools. You've got people that literally don't even understand the basic theories of health, let alone how people get ill, and buying into these archaic notions of health that only really support the big pharmaceutical companies at the expense of getting everyone even iller, we can say. So is this, or I should say, what spurred you fellas to take this stance and this action?
Well, basically what happened is when we heard we were getting a 20-minute neighbourhood pushed down onto us from a higher level of council, we'd already been to Oxford, to back Oxford up there, a 15-minute city. So you got 15-minute city, 20-minute neighbourhood. You're just going to be stifled from driving and moving around, and it will get worse and worse. So we went down to back Oxford last year on a big rally and a protest in the town. When we found out that the same was going to happen to our town, that was when we decided through our friend to get the leaflets out and galvanise people into the town meeting in order that they could push back against the council. And ever since that's happened, things have just got bigger, Chris.
Yeah.
But that's where it started.
That's the thing. The thing is the whole Council Watch movement started here with that, which is about a year ago this month, actually. We even had people turn up from Australia and Canada to our stand in the park and say, well, we want to meet you guys. That's the breadth of the publicity it gained. So it's done the world of good.
I should just give a shout here to my buddy Mark. Hello, Mark, if you're watching. Mark runs the stand in the park in Plymouth, and he's done an absolutely cracking job for, coming up for 4 years now, I suppose.
Well, when you look at it, Chris, and Jordan, when we weren't allowed to move around and we were controlled, the stand in the parks with the saving grace. That's where everybody got together and was talking and sharing information. But those standing parks are now becoming massive headquarters and focal points for other movements. Everything's going back to the stand in the parks. Good people coming with lots of good skills and planning and trying to sort things out. So, you know, God bless the stand in the park. I think we'd be lost without it.
Could you explain, fellas, then, that for people watching that might not be familiar with what a 20-minute city or a 15-minute town is, and why is it potentially problematic for us and our freedom?
Well, yeah, I mean, potentially it's it's looking at the bigger picture about the control of population. You know, by stifling movement, you can control people's movement. So the way they're instigating it, well, for instance, when we went down to Oxford, we was told, oh, you're nuts. You know, the restriction of movement couldn't be possible. So sort of a year or so on from that, it's now become apparent that they are putting in charging measures and restrictive movements on certain roads around the town. So if you want to go from point A to point B, you can't go direct from point A to point B. If you go down this certain road, then you'll be fine, picked up by cameras and what have you. And as we know, these cameras now aren't just ANPR, they're facial recognition and so on and so on. So for me personally, I don't think it's just about the movement of traffic and holding people in one area. Eventually, it will be the monitoring of the individual and making sure they are staying in their area.
Yeah.
Which will then be linked to the CBDCs.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna come on to that, because ultimately that would lead to the old proverbial microchipping and stuff, wouldn't it? It
Absolutely.
And tied in with digital identity, because otherwise, who could you really know who's moving in that car, or who's borrowed this car, or who's nabbed someone who's got a get out of jail free pass to go to the next county over, or what? You couldn't. Ultimately, it would lead to more control measures. Is that right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we know they've already trialled it in Sweden, I think it was, amongst some of the students there. You know, they have the little chip in their thumb there, and it's great. Oh, it's fantastic for the kids. They can just walk up to a Coke machine and beep, and it senses them and provides their tin of Coke or whatever, and you know, they can. The scary thing is that it can start to monitor your patterns in life, and that's where the social credit part of things will start to kick in. You know, okay, you've been to that shop twice this week. Well, on your social credit score, you can't visit that tobacconist or that off license or whatever for more than twice in a week. You can only go and buy a box of cornflakes now. You've had your allocation, and this is already up and running in certain parts of China. And as we know, the World Economic Forum are basing their model on the Chinese model. So yes, it is what they call the mark of the beast. I just call it a chip. I'm not very biblical and what have you, but it is ultimately about controlling the population. And we don't have to go down that route. We don't have to go down that route, provided we've got the numbers to say, no, we're not taking part in it.
Yeah, absolutely. What these town councillors then, give us an idea. Do they have any clue? Would they understand what we're talking about now?
See, this is the problem I find, Chris, having been a councillor for 8 years at 2 levels. Now, if you don't understand how the council works, it's very hard to get a grip on what's happening. Unless you're in a big city, there's 3 levels of council. You've got your town parish council at the bottom, you've got your district council in the middle, and then you've got your county council at the top. Now, basically, councillors can sit on all 3 levels of council at the same time. Now, people are going in and questioning people at the lower level, thinking that they can have influence on a subject where they can't really, because you've got to go in at the higher level to have the interest. what we're also finding is because the main parties have what's called a whip system, they are told what to do from the top of the party, and that disseminates down to the bottom. However, when you attack the councillors at the bottom end, they can't really do anything because all the decisions are made at the higher end where the public are not allowed to get in and question, if that makes sense.
Yes.
I used to be one of those town councillors.
How was that, Chris?
Not what I hoped for. The idea was that a decent number of us were going to get in, and then that way we could create change. But I ended up being the only one, and therefore I was a lone voice, and probably deemed as the black sheep amongst the other councillors. And so I found I could do more damage to the council reporting on them from this side rather than being a part of it.
Chris, can I just bring you up to date with what happened after that film? We got the impression through the emergency meeting that the county came down to the town with that the 20-minute neighbourhood had gone away. However, to keep pressure on at our level, we decided to stand 13 candidates from the Stand in the Park group as local independent councillors last May. So 13 stood. I got kicked out of my seat. Chris got elected in his seat. We only had a 24% turnout in the town. It's a working class town, so Labour will always get in. It would be the opposite in a Conservative area. Conservatives would get in at a minimum. So we've now got a Labour-controlled council with only 18% of the people of the town voting for them. Now, they've just declared a climate crisis in the town from nowhere. That's given them the ability to move taxpayers' money around, allegedly for nefarious reasons, and it's also allowing them to speak to NGOs, non-government organisations, and big business conglomerates who can come in and start influencing what's going on in the towns without any, in effect, democratic influence. So this thing is happening. These things are happening all over the country, and people need to get organised very quickly.
Yes. Have you got these electric bikes in your town?
No.
Not at the minute, no. We're too small for that.
We've got rowing boats.
Yeah, going back to the councillors and Mark talking about the lower levels and what have you. Where I live, I've got a foot in both camps of Norfolk and Suffolk, so I'm dealing with Thetford Town Council and West Suffolk Council. Now, with both of those councils, we've put in freedom of information requests to both councils, and basically asked them. We've had private meetings as well with some of the councillors. And what comes out of these freedom of information requests is we're saying, you've declared a crisis. Can you please explain to us where you get this crisis from? Where are you getting the information? Can you give us data, evidence, facts, documents, and so on and so on? And neither can give you any evidence. But what they do say is, one says, we're taking our information from Friends of the Earth. And the other one says we're taking our information from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Now, we know the IPCC base everything on modelling and hypothesis. So they're dealing with NGOs that don't deal in any kind of historical data or fact. They basically model. They're making it up as they go along. And look at the last time they used modelling with Mr. Ferguson at the beginning of the thing in 2020. We know for a fact that they can model things however they want. So I've been really lucky enough to be dealing with my own counsellor personally, and he's actually said, wow, I didn't realise all this was going on. Stop tapping me. He's thought to himself, right, okay, I didn't realise this was going on. But I've just said to him, look, what we're seeing now is a repeat of history. In the lead up to the Second World War, you had lower end authorities, lower end people in positions of power instigating policy, and they are basically useful idiots.
Yes.
That is really their role in this. They're useful idiots. They haven't got the capacity to go away and investigate and research the stuff we're putting in front of them. Like you were saying, Rachel's been amazing. The way she speaks and puts her evidence across, brilliant. But none of those councillors are really bothered. And I've just done the same with Thetford Town Council as well. Said to them, you misunderstand my question. I'm looking for evidence, data, facts, and documents. And all they come back with is, we're following Friends of the Earth. Now, Suffolk Council was approached as well by another group of guys, and they admitted when they spoke to it was someone high up in Suffolk Council, that the only reason they instigated their climate crisis was because of pressure from Extinction Rebellion. So none of this is coming from the government. The government haven't even declared a climate crisis themselves.
Extinction Rebellion. Aren't we getting into the realms of bloody George Soros and all?
Yes.
Oh yes,
Yes.
yeah, very much so.
All this underhanded funding.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
stop.
let's face it, all of these organisations are all controlled by those above government anyway, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean the Just Stop Oil thing is so Mickey Mouse. They're clearly out to make people protesting us using the oil look like real right royal pains in the asses.
But isn't it funny that the people that are out protesting Just Stop Oil are actually being caught on aeroplanes, and they're from like upper middle class families who jet off abroad for 3-4 times a year, and not the stuff you see on the news.
Yeah, I don't want to sort of go off at too much of a tangent, but the whole climate thing and the geoengineering, we're never going to get a straight answer it's a complex web of lies.
Now, what we're finding, Chris, and this started on the emergency meeting with the county council, and it's happening now with the town council. We're finding that the people in the audience have done more research and know more facts than the councillors. But because the councillors are taking their direction from up top down, we're catching them out, because when we come in with facts, figures, what's really going on, they can't give us a straight answer, because we at our level, at the lower levels all over the country, have the information, but the councillors are not clever enough to understand that information, because they're just doing as they're told through the whip system, and all the main parties accept the whip, and they're just doing as they're being told by people up top. Compartmentalise. Now that means if the fix is in and there's some skullduggery and somebody's being paid off allegedly at the higher level, it's quite easy for that to be disseminated down to the lower level of councillors. And where you've got the clash now is the public is waking up to the fact it's a con, and the public are actually pushing back, and these lower level of councillors are being squeezed in the middle.
Yeah.
Now we all over the country have got to keep that pressure on like that. And I think this is where Council Watch is taken off all over the country.
So are we right in saying then that with a lot of these councillors, are they kind of full of hubris and ego and...
Some are.
Yes.
Some are.
Yes.
The way I look at it is, at the end of the day, the people that have gone and won their council seats and what have you have gone into that with good intention. But they end up, as Chris found out, that all of a sudden they are steered in a certain direction, and that good intention soon goes out the window through the system the whip system that Mark has spoken about.
See, the thing is, when I joined the council, a lot of the other councillors were also first-time councillors, and so whilst I had the background knowledge of what's actually going on in the world, a lot of these people are oblivious to it. But because they're first-time councillors, they haven't got the expertise or the confidence to stick their head up and go, no, I disagree with that. And so what happens is they just end up towing the line.
Like the climate crisis announcement, okay, Thetford Town Council is declaring a climate crisis. Right, who's in favour? And every single one of them put their hands up, which was laughable.
It sounds like Life of Brian.
Oh,
yeah.
It's similar.
So,
You can call me Loretta.
what has been their response to you? I bet they wish you would just go away, don't they?
Yeah.
Well, basically, what happened in February, Chris, we all went in and we started filming. There's 15 minutes precedes the main council meeting where you ask questions to the councillors and they answer. They told us that we couldn't film. We insisted that we were going to carry on filming because it's against the law to stop filming in a public place. And we informed them of that. They decided to walk out and leave the chamber. The public stayed for 35 minutes, roughly, talking, thinking the council had left the premises. We found out the next day they'd hidden a room upstairs and had the meeting when the public had left. So that was in February. In March, they told us that we couldn't film the questions again. We're trying to figure out what they've got to hide. We know what it is because they don't want to be seen answering questions they don't understand or know about on film.
Yes, let me just play a bit. Let me just play a bit of that clip. I think I've got the right one. You're in a big. It looks like you're in a sports hall or something. Is that the one?
Yeah, that's the one.
Let me just play a bit for that for our friends at home.
You should see them walk out in the gowns, Chris, later on.
Emergency. Okay. What I would like to direct mainly at Hazel McCambridge as a name is attached to the agenda is
It's a public meeting in a public place.
Okay, that's us.
So
You
just
cannot abandon the team.
just to clarify for friends at home that the councillors are objecting to being filmed, but of course, if you're a public servant, that's just like a given. That's almost an admission of guilt. Now, I'll just play a bit more, but it looks like they're all about to Foxtrot Oscar.
Mr. Chairman.
could you tell me how much CO2
Gosh, it's just human beings at their worst, isn't it? This is like endemic in society in every walk of life and organisation. It's just this, unable to be challenged, can't be human, toys out the pram.
But this is very important now, Chris. If you get a chance to play that video on and have a look at it, what you will see is this time we were ready because we were not prepared for them to go upstairs and convene the meeting after we'd left. So we actually took over. The Thetford Council Watch took the meeting over.
Okay, I'll play a bit.
With these good lads sitting around in place of the councillors.
I'll just play a bit more.
You should see after they walk out, we come up and take our places
Eddie, what have you got to hide?
at the council table.
Chris, sort this lot out here. You're the only one with any common sense here. Sort them out.
Rules, we have procedure, and you can't go against.
But you can't go against the law.
You'll actually see the councillors in the gowns leaving, Chris.
Yes, we just showed that, mate. Yes.
Ultimately, I think the reason they don't want to be filmed is it's evidential, isn't it? They can't. It cannot be on film, being asked difficult questions, and for me, this goes back to was it January of?
Be careful.
Yeah, I'm going to be careful about what words I use. It goes back to January of 22. 22. It was a year after the rollout. When the Fluser smoking gun document came out, and Thetford Town Council was confronted with this document. Everybody on that council was served notice, and they ignored the document. Now that was evidenced on film. So is this something to do with the reason they don't want it filmed from now on? Who knows? Who knows? But it's certainly suspicious.
Fellas, I'm going to bring our chat to a close because I want to keep it nice and short so as many people get to watch this. And I think we've covered all the sort of pertinent points, and you're obviously all welcome to come back on the show, and we'll have it'll be a part two. The question will end on then is, what is the answer? I mean, Mark, you know my position on this. There's a big club. They control everything on the planet. They're so powerful they can lock every person on the planet in their homes for 2 years, and nobody except the deer stand in the parks fought back, and the people that got themselves up to London for the, I don't want to call them protests, but for the solidarity marches, including, I think we managed to get 60 of the country's, allegedly there's 6 million veterans in this country. Don't quote me on that, but we managed to get 60 to stop them, putting toxic stuff into children, can we say. Yes, it is, as the wonderful George Carling said, it's a big club. We ain't in it. I don't think he was looking as high as the level as I do. But what is the answer? And I mean, they've got everything compartmentalized and knuckled down. It's a bit like these big ships that have the compartments in them. If one of them get ruptures, it doesn't matter because the others, stop the ship going down. And what is the answer, fellas?
Well, Chris, just to finish off the video where we took over, the councillors called the police. And I think this will slightly answer your question. The councillors called the police, 3 police cars and 4 bobbies turned up. And they came in and they spoke to me as the focal point and told me there's been a disturbance. I informed the policeman that all we got here is the public speaking to the public in a public building. And the crowd started clapping. I then asked him what the crime was, as there was no crime known to us. He realised there was no crime. Now, the other thing I want to say to you is we've got 30 trained up common law constables from the Guardians 300, run by an ex-military lad called Mick Stott. Now, once you've been through that training and you know that you can stand in front of the police and command a situation and not live in fear, that actually gives you the ability to start controlling a situation and doing some educating. I think what happened in 2020, it was only people's inner feelings that kept them out of what was going on. I think what we're doing at the minute is we're getting that much information, we're getting that much training, we're managing to stop people falling into that spell again. And I think the more we do at that level, that education through the Guardians, standing in your own sovereignty, not being scared, education, we've got to push back, because if we don't push back, we'll end up in the same situation we were in 2020, and we don't want that. You only got to look at where we was in 2020 when you was the individual stood in your garden talking nuts, to now when you speak to people on the streets, they'd say, "Oh yeah, it's all a load of rubbish, isn't it? Yeah, it's all a load of bollocks." And we've gone from everyone thinking you're nuts to people actually being aware of what's going on. But now the next level is to get them to actually voice it, or actually physically stand up and say, "Look, I'm not playing the game anymore." So ultimately, it is a numbers game, and it's just about keep planting the seeds, because like Mark says, once you've lost the fear and you've got the knowledge, that's all over for those higher up the food chain, isn't it?
Absolutely. Fellas, on that note, can I just thank you ever so much. One last question. How can people get involved? Can they contact you, Mark? What if they want to kick this off in their town? Yeah, just get in touch with Thetford Council Watch. We're on the internet, and you'll probably go through LSB at the minute. We're about to get our own standalone YouTube channel. You can message us on that. I've just been down. 7 of us went to Swindon this week for something called the Great Resist, which is run by the indomitable Liz Phillips. And we went down and spoke to 400 people there and explained how we'd set the Council Watch up. And I think through the stand in the parks, it's starting to happen, Chris.
But we have people who will travel. If anybody wants us to come down, we will travel. We'll come up at the weekend and we'll speak to anybody and tell them what we've done and how it's working. And I look forward to is we've just put out another leaflet this weekend, 2,000 into the town, where we need them tomorrow night at the Thetford Town Council meeting, where hopefully a large amount of people will bring pressure to bear again. So we're hoping to do what we did last year tomorrow night. So we'll report back on that to you when we've had the meeting.
Yes, please do. On that note, gentlemen, thank you ever so much. Can I say to our friends at home, hope you got as much out of that as I did, and thank you very much for what these gentlemen and all of their compadres are doing. If you could check if you subscribe to the channel, folks, that would be great. If you can chuck the video a like, it all helps us to keep spreading the message. And the final thing I want to say is thank you to everyone who supported my transatlantic row. I'll be rowing the Atlantic in December. There's my GoFundMe. Thank you for everyone who's chipped in a £5. As you can see here, some people have been more generous, but a £5's all I ask. We're going to be shining a light for struggling veterans and all people who are battling mental health, as I did back in the day. And we're going to be raising money for bereaved children and homeless veterans. That's it. Fellas, just stay on the line. I'm going to play us out. Friends, we'll see you soon.
I've been living life right like I could just die.